All right, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to another live event with the House of Bricks. And as you know, we've kind of changed the name of this thing that we're doing. And what's really come to fruition over the last couple years, it's really how I built my career. I just didn't know what I was doing, but it's really building based on testing, failing, learning, and growing. And the more you repeat that, the more you do it, the more it creates a compound effect, which is the small things every day that make a big impact over time. And as you know, and if you don't, my name is Adam House. And I've named myself recently just kind of coming up with random nicknames that I think are funny because there's so many ridiculous things on LinkedIn. Everyone's an expert, everyone's a guru. Well, I call myself the luck guru. Right around the corner from St. Patrick's Day and going into my favorite time of year, which is March Madness, because you never know which team is going to win, right? And you can have a 16th seed beat a 1 seed. And I will be locking myself in a room for the next 4 days, starting tomorrow. I really try to unplug. I really won't. I'll be on LinkedIn and doing Zoom calls, but just loving March Madness and see who's going to step up and show up. So listen, over the last 27 years, I've probably stacked 70,000 failures. But what makes me different is that I don't give up. I test, I fail, I learn, I grow. And if you've been following us, you've seen the changes that we've made. First, we're doing podcasts, then we launch a community, then it's business advisory, then we're doing startups, and all those things we're testing, and some of it was failing. But what we did differently than most people do is we took the time to learn, and we really focused in and dialed in on what it is we want to do, who we want to be. And I am locked and loaded for 2025, off to an incredible start. Already done in Q1 revenue, what we did all of last year, and we'll probably double that next quarter and just keep growing. So I've got an incredible guest here today. He's a member of the House of Bricks community. And if your kids are listening, I guarantee you there will be profanity flying at some point, not from me, but he's from New York or whatever you guys say. And, he gets a pass here on the House of Bricks because that's just how they talk and communicate. So I want to welcome a good friend of mine, Evan Marks. He's a powerhouse when it comes to mental performance. And you're going to ask yourself, where the heck did this guy get this type of mental capacity and performance and the ability to coach others? Well, he spent 25 years on Wall Street, and he knows high stake pressure better than most of the people. And I'm going to have to ask him this question. He said he had a life-changing moment, and he took a 99% pay cut to launch his coaching career. So I love when people throw these percentages around. Like they say, I 10x my sales. I was making $100 and now they're making $1,000. But I don't know how you get a 99% pay cut. Maybe he took a pencil on the way out. That was part of the severance that kept it from being 100%. But all that, I'm just having a good time. He's coaching NASCAR pit crews, top CEOs, all kinds of great people, athletes, and just an incredible guy. So Evan Marks, welcome to the House of Bricks.
My brother, how are you? And by the way, just real quick, profanities, according to a Harvard research piece, which I still can't find, is a sign of intelligence. My mother doesn't believe it, and many people don't. But, using it as adjectives and colorful language, they say is a sign of intelligence.
Well, I'm going to throw a mom comment back at you. So every time I cursed, she would say that is an ignorant man's crutch. So we're going to let the Harvard and my mom go at it. I'll tell you who's going to win.
I think my mother's with your mother, but I'm still trying to convince her.
Yeah, go with it. But listen, it's great to be on. And, again, I know you're one of the early members in our community, helping with the Startup X program. You've added a ton of value. It's been great, getting to know you. But let's talk about that pivotal moment where you had a successful career as a trader, living in those high pressure moments. I'm sure you're making, a lot of money at the time. But what happened?
It's interesting. I spent 25 years on Wall Street, and I just moved my family out to the burbs. I lived in Manhattan for about 25 years, and I was sitting in my car top of my game. I'm a partner on a fund. Everything's great. And all of a sudden, my head starts to heat up. I'm like, that's weird. All of a sudden, my vision starts to go blurry. I'm sitting in the car waiting to get on a train to go into Manhattan. Now, I've blown up my knees twice. I've had complete shoulder implants. So I'm not an alarmist whatsoever. I take pain well. I'm used to pain. But something was different. I'm sitting there. I'm talking to my assistant. And I said, I can't see my phone. I said, my head's heating up like it's getting wet, which sounds very odd. My arms are getting numb. I'm like, wait a second, what is going on here? So I said, let me get home, which obviously was not the brightest idea at that moment, but I didn't know what I was going to do. I get home. I park my car in the middle of the street. I didn't realize at the time. I walk up my drive like I just had 27 martinis, which I didn't.
Okay, I was like,
I get it to my
it.
kitchen. I'm hanging on to the island. I look at my wife. I go, something is definitely off. And her first response is, you know what's fucking off? You haven't eaten in 7 days because of this stupid fasting crap you do. I go, that's not it. So she wasn't a believer in the beginning. And I said, I have to go to the hospital. Like something was wrong. I get to the hospital. I think I'm having a heart attack. Through tests and tests, they realized I had a massive panic attack out of nowhere. Never had one. I was 46 years old. On paper, everything looks beautiful. Healthy children, which I believe is a good marriage, but you got to ask my wife. I think it all looks good, but something was wrong. So they realized it's a massive panic attack. Next day, I see a neurologist. He's like, the gray matter in your brain is significantly impaired. What do you mean impaired? He goes, the amount of stress and damage you've done to your brain, I don't know if you can replace it. I said, I don't know what that means. He goes, well, you're 46 years old. You got to make a decision. What you're doing right now is no longer working for you. Now I'm 46 years old. I got a 6 and a 4-year-old. Just bought a house in the burbs. I've got a good career, I think. He's like, you're done. He goes, have you ever thought, 46, have you ever thought about coaching or teaching? I go, excuse me? I go, that ship has sailed. He goes, so luckily my wife, who's always with me because she doesn't think I listen very well sometimes when I'm at doctors, she's like, you got a decision to make. I guess I'm done. Luckily, at that time, I had a performance coach reach out to me and said, what are the odds you come work with me? Literally within a span of a week or two. Within 6 months, I sell my equity partnership. I go back to school, 99% haircut, go back to school. And in 6 months, I'm coaching Jimmy Johnson and his pit routines at Hendrick Motorsports.
Come on.
And that's how I started my career.
I love that. Well, not that happened to you, but
I'm glad it happened to me.
Yeah. But it's amazing how just things can change so quickly in life, right? You think you're on a certain path and, one door closes and one door opens, but I'm the same way. I go to the doctor and I don't listen to anything that they say. But at this moment,
just take it out.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's not that bad, it's not that bad. So, what exactly, was the big thing, that you felt you wanted to do as you're entering into this new job? Because, I mean, what you were doing before had serious upside, earning potential, already had a ton of success. And it's kind of like when I talk to some of these pro athletes that are able to dominate in their profession, but then they're able to have even more success after their career. And at 46, it's tough to really make that transition that quick.
And
what do you think was like the key to that transition?
It's interesting. So I went to school at University of Pennsylvania in Philly, and I have an identical twin brother. And we both got recruited to play Division I lacrosse there. And I'd blown my knees out twice, my freshman and my sophomore year. That's a different story. But my brother went on to get recruited by this guy named Steve Cohn at SAC Capital. Meanwhile, we grew up with no money, no idea what Wall Street was. UPenn was a great school. We got grants to go because Ivy Leagues don't give scholarships. We couldn't afford it anyway. Like, this is perfect. My brother got into the hedge fund business. He's like, Ev, you got to see this. This is the most amazing business. It's competitive and they make a ton of money. Oddly enough, I never liked it one day. So I lived this life. Unfortunately, I was pretty decent at it for 25 years, waking up not excited every day. You make some money, obviously it was good, but losses, obviously, as we know, psychologically are worse than wins because you can feel them deeper, right? It's unconscious and it's just how the brain is wired. I hated every moment of being on Wall Street, and I did it for 25 years.
But did you feel that during the process? You really did? Or was it kind of...
I remember the last 10 years, I looked at my wife, I said, I just want to let you know, I feel like this is spiritual suicide. I'm not meant to be doing this. I'm meant to coach and teach. And I always thought that, like, because, I was raised, I didn't have a father growing up. He became a crackhead and stuff like that. So he never came to our sporting events. He just wasn't around. And I had so many incredible coaches around me. And I loved, and I had an older brother who was handicapped. And I always loved serving others. Whatever way I could or whatever it was, there was such a fulfilling aspect of that. But Wall Street paid a lot better in the beginning. And all of a sudden that dream of doing this just started to fade and fade and fade and then was gone. But I always tell people, I'm one of these emotion guys when I coach. We always think that the greatest emotions, perceived negative ones, are rejection, embarrassment, judgment. But actually one of the strongest emotions we have is something called regret. So when I look back what happened to me when I was 46, I think I go, was that regret really building for 25 years? Was there, obviously the markets are difficult, right? They're very, you're dealing with uncertainty constantly. You're dealing with a lot of emotions. But was regret building all these years? And I don't know the answer to that. But I do know the power of regret, of doing and not doing. So now I'm 53 years old. I started my own company last year called M1 Performance Group. And I worked with a group before that for 6.5 years. And like anything else, I'm an entrepreneur, right? And we're when we talk about even what House of Bricks is about learning and failing, trying and all these, I'm still doing this at 53. I didn't know what the hell social media was till last year.
I know.
I was never on it.
Right.
I had no idea. I mean, now we're setting up I thought a collaboration was with a music group. I had no idea what a collaboration was. There was no need for it.
Right.
So as I go along this journey, it's been exciting. It hasn't been linear. Luckily we've had success, but we're just starting. And I know there's going to be a couple hiccups along the way, right? I don't have an app that tells me when the delivery truck comes with the obstacles, hurdles, challenges, and emergencies. But I'll tell you one thing. I was fortunate to grow up in Wall Street, to really learn what my internal footing looks like. And for the last 7.5 years, I've studied like nobody's business. So when I coach people, we're not in the positive psychology camp. We're in the opportunistic reality camp. That when things come down the pipe, I want to make sure my people know their internal footing. And I think that's the way I approach business. I know you do. Yeah. This is how you approach it. It's like, what can I learn? What happened? What am I going to regret? Let me see.
Well, I'll tell you, I've said this before, that regret is a bill that when you die, no one can pay. It's the most expensive bill. Seriously, you don't want to die with regret. And what I was going to ask you is, you had a lot of success in what you were doing. And so was your mindset going into M1 Performance really to swing big and go big? Or was it like, do I just kind of ease my way into this? And what was that first step that you took? What was the test that you were going to see where you're at?
Well, if I can back up for a second, So my first coaching gig, like I said earlier, is with Hendrick Motorsports in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I walked in there with 4 of the coaches. I thought it was going to be like maybe 5 people. There was 60 crew members and 5 drivers.
Yeah.
And I was never going to speak because I was just a new guy on the block. And the woman who had this group's like, you got to tell your story. I said, excuse me? I'm wearing light gray slacks, a nice blue coat. And I'm like, I'm going to pee myself. I go, here I am. I just retired from Wall Street. After 25 years, everybody thinks I'm going to be a very good coach. I can't even stand in front of 60 people, and I may wet my pants. True story. And all of a sudden, I started telling the story, and it was 10 minutes later. Obviously, I kept myself together, and to me, that was it. I'm like, you know what? I have never faced fear like that. Disappointment, embarrassment, judgment. Everybody thinks I can do it. I can't even stand in front of people and do this. That was my defining moment. And when I started M1, I realized, and you're probably very similar. I'm not a very good drafter. I don't take authority very well. I need to lead from the front. And I kind of realized after a while, I'm like, you know what? My personality is my personality. My work ethic is my work ethic. Let me go see what this is all about on my own. And so I started M1 last year, and I'm going to be hiring coaches, and we're hiring teams, and we're doing new things. So I'm so glad I made that decision when, that theme of regret, because the worst case scenario would be me staying where I was. So I had to go see what this was all about to do it on my own. And here I am now, 16 months later, 18 months later.
Yeah. And what's great about that story, there's actually 2 things you overcame, because you weren't even really a coach yet. And then you had to get in front of people and talk about it. So you could be a great entrepreneur, a great CEO, and still be afraid of public speaking. So it was like, 2 Goliaths at once. And fortunately, you didn't wet your pants.
Yeah. And people were like, was that imposter syndrome? I go, what am I impostoring? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Right.
I said, but I've led trading floors. I've worked with incredible coaches. So maybe I'm not there yet, but I got to start somewhere. So what am I faking? I don't know anything yet.
Yeah.
But I have experience. I'm a human being. Now I have to get the technicals down. So I never felt like an imposter. I just felt like I wasn't there yet. Like when you think about Nike, it's just do it. People think the word do is the magical word there, but it's not. It's just. Just go do, just try it.
The first step is always the toughest, and you have to take it before you're ready, because you never are. And so what would you view as kind of that, as we're sticking to the test, fail, test, learn, fail, test, fail, learn, grow. What would you see as kind of the failure that you faced kind of out of that gate? What was the test, and then how did you fail?
I think the failure was, in my experience, when I started coaching, I was with an organization a little too long because I didn't trust myself. Like, we're always told to play our strengths, However, our weaknesses are sometimes perceived weaknesses. We just haven't tapped them yet. So these weaknesses that I thought I had, I'm a numbers and science guy. What do I know about speaking or writing or doing these things? Well, I didn't know anything, but I always told myself in this narrative, it's not your thing.
Yeah.
And that's such fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Because you know why? I didn't tap it yet. I didn't try it out yet. And what's interesting, and this is what I learned, our perceived weaknesses, are often our greatest roads of growth. And that's what I learned. So when I thought what I failed, I'm like, I failed in my mindset. I failed in the narrative I told myself. I failed in whatever the crap that was going on, this perception. and it was wrong.
Dude, I'll tell you what, you just said something I've never, ever thought about, is that the failure, it could be the belief in yourself. So we have never talked about that on the show. I've never thought about it. And it's probably the biggest mistake people make, is that self-limiting belief.
Absolutely.
You don't even take action, right?
Yeah.
And when you do and it doesn't work, you're blaming yourself. It's not about the action, it's about how you respond to it. Because success in life is a horrible teacher. I haven't learned anything when I exited my company. I didn't learn anything. People are like, "Oh, I had to be so great to exit your company." It lasts 1 second. Okay, now what? My whole identity was just wrapped up in that thing. That was everything I was.
Pass the salt. What are we doing now? Right.
Yeah, and after I sold my second company, it took my wife about a week to, let's say, like, you need to go get a job. Like, because she's like, I don't care if you work at Starbucks being a barista, but because I don't do things, I just delegate, right? And so I just started delegating tasks to her, and then boom, here comes the frying pan, So it's just really interesting to think about that. So if you guys are out there listening, paying attention, it's something that's never been said before, and I've never heard, and it's probably the most important thing, is how you view the results of that test determines whether you win or lose. In fact, we may even change the name of the show now, which is Test, Learn, Learn, Grow, because failure is a teacher. And so you've tested, you failed, and you're looking at yourself inward. You're not blaming your surroundings. You're not blaming the economy or the competition. You're looking at yourself. What did you learn kind of in this moment?
I learned that in order to be successful, it takes a lot of work. So when I always say to people say the comparison is a thief of joy. It's not, it's envy. When I look at you and my identical twin brother owns a bunch of restaurants, and it took him 18 years to get, and he's extremely successful. But the guys I know that are successful, it wasn't linear. There are struggles. Like you just said, there is learning and struggle and success, because that's just the way the brain is wired. What I learned is that success is not easy. And to stay successful is even harder. So those, to learn that, as I do, collaborations now, I got to put these things to them. Like, I don't know how to fucking do this. Someone go figure it out. Right. And I also learned that procrastination is not the lack of effort. It's the fear of a future feeling. So when I have a new venture come up, I'm like, all right, Ev, you're kind of a little wobbly here. What are you afraid of here?
Right.
That you don't know. So why don't you start? Go from A to B and go figure this thing out. It may not be right just yet. Right. Because nothing's ever perfect. Just start moving, kid. Because once I start moving, I'll get there. It's just that initial, come on, let's go, right? I can tweak it, but I can't tweak that, right? I got to keep going. So it's one of those things where each day, it's almost like, how do you do this? Like, I know how to coach, right? I've coached high performers for 7.5 years. But as we're developing certain aspects of M1, I'm like, man, I've never done this. How do I do this?
Yeah.
And then, believe it or not, you know what happens, Adam? I do it.
Because you took the step, right?
Yeah.
You got to take
the
step. And we talk about that in the House of Bricks, right? Brick by brick. You're not building the house overnight, and you have the choice. You can carry those experiences with you, and they're heavier. You can lay them down, build a strong foundation, turn those obstacles into stepping stones. And I tell people the worst decision in life is to not make decisions at all. And not making a decision is a decision. So people are like, I'm not sure if I want to make a decision. That's a decision. You're deciding to stay exactly where you are, and you'll be there until you move. And we talk about that really in our simple framework of, the strategy portion of it, right? Is you are somewhere now. you want to go somewhere else, and how you're going to get there is going to vary. But as long as you have a North Star and where you're going, that's going to give you the best odds, and that progress will lead, to action. And it'll give you data to make better decisions down the road. Action creates data. And I know you're a science guy, data-driven guy. If things aren't moving, there's no data to really analyze and make better decisions down the road. So you're in this learning phase, and I know you're like me, you're a high performer. You want to do everything at the highest level, and you're not looking to just, coach YMCA softball coaches. You're working with, NASCAR elite people. And I was thinking about this when you were talking about your first speaking experience. You couldn't have picked one of the tougher crowds. The mental toughness that it takes to drive a race car and to be
these guys were eating wood. Yeah. I'm like, God, geez.
Like those guys are, elite in their mindset, and that's your first swing. But, when you started to really build M1, what was kind of your mindset, and how did you get to where you are now?
It's interesting what you just said. Like, you're sitting in the room with these mega alpha males. But it's interesting. We're all human beings. We all need support. When we talk about House of Bricks and entrepreneurs, everybody needs support. Everybody needs a strong mental foundation. So whether you're CEO of ABCD or a running back at this or a PM at this fund, we are more similar than we're not. So we all have a past. We all have anxiety about the future. We all have our personal experiences that sometimes anchor our behavior in a not so thriving way. So when you start to, I have clients around the globe, and it's just deviations apart, a couple standards here and there. Everybody has a story to tell. So, you can't tell a book by its cover, whatever crap that is. It's so true.
It really is.
It really is. When you see somebody, there's a story behind that. That's everybody. And to me, one of the most fulfilling things about this is serving others. And having somebody say to me, I can't believe where I am right now. That's worth every haircut and pay that I could ever imagine. And it's true.
And I'm going to tell you something that I have learned. So after I exited Sales Transformation Group and kind of went into this place of, hey, I'm going to launch a podcast. I'm like you. I want to do everything at the highest level. And I was just like obsessed with Tony Robbins, Ed Mylett, all these guys, Brian Tracy. And what I noticed is they're all saying the same thing, but when you listen to it at a specific time and a specific thing is going on and it's said in a specific way by a specific person, it will impact you in a specific way. And so that is why I do this. I never wanted my name in lights, even though my name is now in lights. I did not want to do what I'm doing because I didn't think my story was that interesting. I mean, yes, I've done a lot, but I was also listening to podcasts like a guy jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, tried to kill himself, and like SEALs kept him afloat. Like, now that's a freaking story that everyone wants to hear, but I don't have that story. You start a couple companies, played some basketball, whatever, but that didn't happen to me. Like that's a story everyone wants to hear. But I noticed that the more I told my story, and I was saying things that other people said, there's nothing new under the sun. But it would impact somebody like in a specific way. And so that is why I am doing what I'm doing, is going after that one person. So that one person out there that's listening to this, maybe we're impacting them. That's really what it's about. And so people that are listening, you don't think your story is that interesting. You have something to share with someone else in a specific way at a specific time that's going to change their life. There's something you went through, something you overcame. So don't limit yourself by your self-limiting beliefs and thinking, I'm not a CEO, I'm not a pro athlete, I'm not a trader on Wall Street. Everyone's got a story to tell. And if you just focus on that one person, it keeps you humble, right? I know you're not chasing likes and comments, and you're doing this, at a high level and trying to serve people. And that's, what I really appreciate about you. And so you've gone through this testing, you've gone through this failing, and now you want to grow. You start to grow. What would you see as kind of the biggest catalyst to the growth that you've had?
Really understanding what mental space means. So, as you grow and you expand and you take risks, like anything, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying. It's scary for anybody because I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be embarrassed, but I know that's a part of the course. So I'm always aware of reacting because I know that's not where I want to be. So when I say mental space and I talk about emotions a lot, I want to be able to acknowledge what's going on internally underneath the hood, right? We all have our different stories, like we just said, and I have emotions like everybody else. We all do. But I also have the power of choice of conscious behavior. So when I go down this road of building M1 and see all these shiny things that I could be doing, I want to always give myself that power of a pause. All right. This is what I want to be doing. I'm nervous. What should I do next? That small space to me is everything. So as I grow M1, more coaches, more speaking events, more corporations, I want to make sure that I'm nurturing that at all times and not taking it for granted. However, at the same time, leveraging the piss out of it. Like that is my power. And I want to really get to know that well so I can use it to my advantage. But it's like anything, it's got to be watered. It's got to be nurtured. So that's always top of where am I right now? Where's my space? Where's my mental capital? Am I taking care of this? Right? Because it's not going to go like this.
No.
It's going to be a little like this. So I want to make sure my internal footing's healthy. Like, am I treating myself all right?
Yeah.
Am I good to, am I all right to make these moves, to make this charge? Those are the things I'm always thinking about. And I do believe, not that I think I believe, I think it's important for anybody at any stage of wherever you are.
I'll tell you what, I love what you're saying, and I'm probably one of the worst people at this. And you and I were talking over the holidays, and you're like, Adam, this is happening. I was like, okay. And like you have to take that minute and pause. And I talk about the collateral damage of things, and and it applies to anybody. Like, and it goes to all high performers. And do you take the moment to realize like it is happening? This is going on. So we're all about action here in the House of Bricks. And I want to give people, an actual, actionable takeaway, and maybe an action step that they can take. And then we'll wrap up.
It's very simple. Remember, this stuff has been around forever, right? It's intellectually, we know what to do. There's an emotional blanket around everything we do. The first self-help book's the same as the 900. It's not in chapter 16. However, I do agree with you. Sometimes at the right time, you hear something that does ignite you. Take a breath. So when we talk about mental space, when you can feel viscerally something going on, breathe in for 4, out for 8. Down regulate your body. Move your nervous system. The more you do that, the more reps you put in, you're really at a good spot to make great decisions and conscious behavior. A breath. And by the way, it's free. Free. The only thing you have to remember is to do it. One breath. Everybody, if you breathe in for 4, exhale for 8, it moves your system like that. And then all these things that we've discussed It's almost like when the water is murky, it starts to clear up and it starts to get a little clearer and less murky. Now you get to utilize all these things you know intellectually, as long as you're not getting hijacked by something else. That's a very simple, actionable step that everybody can use.
Yeah. And I notice when you communicate also, as we're going back and forth, there's like these healthy pauses. So it creates anticipation, right? But also causes you to think about what you're saying. And it's just, you're really slowing down to speed up, right? And so we've got to wrap up here. And Evan, I want to thank you for joining. I want to thank you for being a member of the House of Bricks. I want to thank you for being a friend. And I'm still looking for that one deal that has unlimited returns for the rest.
By the way, you got me in the last one. I was like this. I'm like, I was about to wire money to you. I'm like, this is the greatest deal I've ever seen. I'm like, that's not nice of you.
Yeah. I've sent Evan like 3 perfect investment opportunities on a platter. And he's like, keep sending them my way. I'm like, what exactly do you want? So I text him. I was like, all you got to do is you're buying this stock at 50 cents. It's going to go to $15. If it doesn't do that, you'll get 100 times your money back. And I could see him start to text me. I was like, does he really think like this is a deal? So I got him with that one. I'm going to call Elon Musk after this and see what he's got cooking. Maybe he needs to work with Evan Marks for some performance coaching. So Elon, if you're listening, reach out to Evan Marks. Great guy. And I do take a 20%.
He was a UPenn guy, by the way, before he went to Stanford. Just give you a heads up.
All right.
He was my year, actually. Yeah, just letting you know.
So well, I appreciate everyone joining. And, look, this is just proof that fear is not a stop sign. It's really a signal, right? And regret isn't a weight. It's really fuel. It's showing that you're going to miss an opportunity. So when you feel that regret, your body and your mind and is telling you it's time to take action. So I want to thank everyone for joining. And for those of you who want to get connected with Evan, obviously find him on LinkedIn. His website is m1performance.com. Group.com. Sorry. Thank you. I was reading too fast. So m1performance.group.com, and Paul will put that in the chat, but find him on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, you're probably not in business anyway. And that's for my buddy Michael, who lives there. So appreciate you joining. Thanks, everybody. If you want to learn more about the House of Bricks community, love to chat with you on it. And thanks for joining. Have a good one, Evan.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
It was awesome.